is a person who we could say had dedicated his life for public service. Many will know him as a Vice Chancellor at the University of Nairobi, then at the in the Ministry of Education, first of all at NEC, then the Ministry of Education. Maybe if you can just take us through on his track record in public service.
Well, it goes without saying, my colleague and senior Duncan Haemba, that Professor George Magoha was a man of great academic mien. But aside from that, he was also a hilarious man. And this, in particular, would just be explained by the way he would just only take polished questions from journalists. And I'm sure you've experienced that as well. And, of course, just looking at his academic record, Duncan, you can also see that straight from Dr. Livingstone Primary School, where he attended primary school, he actually performed very well before proceeding to Starehe Boys Center. And he was proud of it. He actually mentioned it when he was being vetted as the CS for education. He did his O-levels there, then proceeded for his A-levels at the Strathmore University. And Duncan Haemba, he actually got a scholarship to the University of Lagos to pursue human medicine. And this goes to show you what a sharp mind, what a sharp brain he was. And of course, then proceeded to the Royal Postgraduate University in the UK. And of course, he was also a fellow of the Royal College. So this is in particularly a sharp mind that the country has lost here. And of course, also, as you've asked me, the kind of interaction that I had with him, I remember at one point when I was covering him just as he was inspecting, you know, there were desks that were being made in order for schools to run smoothly. And I posed a question and I asked him, what are you doing about schools that are in far-flung areas that have been affected by, you know, banditry, for example, in Baringo? And he told me, young man, you know, you have a long way ahead of you. And of course, be invested in education as you are at the moment. And in particular, this is an advice that I will take with me for years. And allow me now to speak to David Osiany, who is the former CAS, Trade and Industrialization. Thank you so much, David Osiany, for joining us on NTV. Perhaps you were among the first people to actually arrive here. Perhaps what do you remember about CS Professor George Magoha? How will you remember him?
I'll remember Professor Magoha as an honest man. You know, impact is what immortalizes a man. Impact is what immortalizes a man. He created impact as the head of the University College of Health Sciences. He created impact to become the Deputy Vice Chancellor for Administration and Finance at the University of Nairobi. When he rose to be the Vice Chancellor of the University of Nairobi, he created impact, reduced corruption, you know, built a strategic plan for the university, was identified from there. He became the chair of the National Examination Council. He went and created massive impact, reining in on the malpractice of exam cheating. And when he was given the opportunity to be the, you know, the Cabinet Secretary for Education in the footsteps of his predecessor, Dr. Matiang'i, Professor Magoha created impact. And so he was a man about impact, a man about purpose, a man about progress. And for me, Professor Magoha is one of the greatest losses, worst losses for our nation.
Thank you so much, David Osiany, the former CAS and the Ministry of Trade and Industrialization, of course, just speaking to us his recollection of the life and times of the late Professor George Magoha. And of course, he said impact is what immortalizes a human being. Duncan.
Well, we now have to hand over back to James Martin studio, but just in summary, a giant has fallen, a giant in the medical field has fallen, a giant in the academic field has fallen, and a leader. By all, what you can say, all factors putting in place, it is a tragic evening, not only for the Magohas, but for the country